Hearing the news that a professional swimmer died by drowning couldn't possibly be as shocking and terrifying as the story you're about to hear. A 6-foot muscular stud dies a helpless death while his safety rope becomes tangled, leaving him gasping and clawing for air. But according to people close to Paul Francis Hayden, the fact that it happened to him is genuinely inexplicable. So what's the truth? Brace yourself for a ride that will send shivers down your spine. Paul had grown up in La Crescenta and had visited the old well, Goss Canyon, which had opened in 1907. He was now a proficient pararescue instructor for the United States Air Force. Hayden was a pararescue jumper in the United States Air Force, a member of one of the military's most elite and well-trained teams. A muscular 39-year-old who jumped from helicopters, swam against currents, and pulled injured fishermen from frothy seas. Air Force Master Sergeant Paul Hayden and his brother began trekking into the old horizontal water well on September 17, 2000, a long mile up remote, little-known Goss Canyon in La Crescenta near the Angeles National Forest. During their childhood, Michael and Paul Hayden visited an abandoned water well cave in Goss Canyon. They'd been down in this cave many times with their siblings in California, using it as a family watering spot. In summers, as a family of 6, they generally hiked in the dry sections and swam in the deep flooded well in the interior. From the outside, it didn't appear to be much. Near the town of La Cinta, California, the entrance was a small black hole about 3 feet by 4 feet. The path began with a horizontal entrance for about 50 feet, followed by a 30-foot climb down a sloping incline. The trail continued till it reaches the flooded pool area. This was about 150 feet from the entrance, so it was an easy path for young adventurers to explore and play in the water. There was a dry cave in the vicinity. As the boys grew older, they gained some skills and became bolder in their plans to explore this abandoned water well. They had been to tunnels and caverns within the flooded portion over the years, but now they wanted to look a little deeper. Paul Hayden planned to go further than ever before on this expedition, avoiding sumps hundreds of feet deep in the old well. They came across the water about 150 feet in. At around 11 a.m., Paul Hayden entered the cavern using an abandoned well shaft, crawled roughly 15 meters along the tunnel, and then 9 meters down a hill to reach a water-filled area. He swiftly pulled himself through that rocky path and prepared to begin his dive by tying a rope to the edge of the water to serve as a guideline. He was excited about the adventure that he'd been planning for some time. His primary source of light was a waterproof video camera lamp, although he should have prepared more cautiously for a dive like that. He informed his brother that he had 2 hours of air remaining and that he should seek help if he did not return within that time. The brothers devised a method of communicating using the rope tether linked to a boulder in the main cave. Michael would give the rope a couple of tugs to check on Paul's condition. Paul would then tug a couple of times to signal that he was fine. Things appeared to be going well. The lead was being pulled down as expected, and Michael continued to feed the rope linked out for his brother. He had tugged a few times, and Paul had responded after about 20 minutes. He pulled twice and waited for a reply. This time there was nothing. He pulled again, but found the line to be tight. But after those 20 minutes, things went horribly wrong. His brother could no longer move the line, and when he did not respond to tugs on the rope, he looked for help, calling authorities at 1:20 p.m. in a frantic and terrified state, worried out of his mind that something bad must have happened to his brother. He was frantic and started drawing all the worst conclusions, which is a normal reaction for any of us if our loved one stops responding in a situation like this. He wasn't exactly wrong in his assumptions either. He dashed to the closest La Crescenta sheriff's office for help, pleading and explaining what happened to his brother. Within minutes, rescue teams from various agencies appeared at the well opening, using four-wheel drive vehicles to navigate the old dangerous dirt road and reach the diver who'd been stuck in an unnamed well, according to his brother. At about 3:45 p.m., rescue diver Mark Lonsdale who was determined to find the man's brother, discovered Sergeant Paul's body in a tiny horizontal channel between a rock and a steel beam. The body was stuck roughly 185 feet into the flooded portion and more than 400 feet from the entrance, which horrified the diver. His regulators remained attached, indicating that he had most likely run out of air before becoming trapped. Hayden's body was recovered in a 1-meter diameter tunnel directly beneath a gas pocket, which is too narrow of a space for a 6-foot man. Hayden put his head into the gas pocket and pulled his regulator from his lips, according to the footage found from his camera, which indicated he might have inhaled some toxic poisonous gases, which are accumulated in old caves. The camera then captured a fall to the ground with no additional movement. Hayden's body was discovered with 170 bars of pressure in his air cylinder. This cave has natural erosion and water buildup tunnels, as well as shafts from the surface for water access. Because the well had been abandoned for a long time, the tunnels and shafts were flooded, and the air had been long stagnant. There were 100-foot deep sump pumps, and between them were tunnels filled with water that linked to other cave sections. The original well shafts were built out at the water level, resulting in a small 3 feet by 3 feet space where the water could be accessible via pipes from the surface. Those pipes had long since been removed. The narrow pipe regions above were filled with dirt and rock. The organic matter emitted decomposition gases into the chamber below, and water erosion of the stone also supplied gases. After swimming through caves and tunnels in the front area, he arrived at one of the shafts. It was barely 3 feet broad within the shaft, making it a little tight for Paul's body. With a scuba tank on his back, he could see the silvery reflection of the surface above. When he stared up with his camera light, there was an air pocket at the top of the shaft. Hayden was a skilled open water diver and member of an elite Air Force rescue squad, but he lacked cave diving training and certification, so his death in a cave is full of irony and is about as mysterious as it gets. Because if someone was a novice diver, such an accident might not make any sense, but a very experienced diver who'd been to the very cave more than once makes everything more twisted and complicated. He knew from previous experience that air pockets in caves can be quite deadly. His family reported that he always kept a lighter in his pocket to test the oxygen concentration of the air before removing his regulator. He didn't on this particular day. His camera captured the moment he stepped into the gas pocket, with the view up the shaft lit by his camera light. He then took a breath while removing the regulator from his mouth. The video shows the shaft's wall and then submersion in water. He made no attempt to replace the regulator in his mouth, indicating that he was completely disabled. Paul sinks to the bottom of the shaft and does not move further. It took only a few moments from regulator removal to submersion. So what happened to Paul? I'm sure if you're diving with a full tank of air, you feel relaxed checking the pocket. If it smells unpleasant or feels stifling, just put your regulator back in your mouth and keep going. Unfortunately, it's not that straightforward. A single breath of air containing more than 10% carbon dioxide causes unconsciousness. This is due to carbon dioxide poisoning. Normally, carbon dioxide makes up about 0.4% of the air we breathe. When the air in our lungs comes into contact with carbon dioxide-rich venous blood, it quickly exits the blood and enters the air, where it has a much lower concentration. When the concentration of CO2 in the lung air is more than 100 times higher than that in the blood, CO2 will rapidly push into the bloodstream in less than 1 second. Normally, gases move in the direction of highest concentration to lowest concentration, removing carbon dioxide from the body. In this case, the high concentration of CO2 in the air reverses the direction of diffusion. Extremely high levels of carbon dioxide in the blood cause acute respiratory acidosis, in which the blood becomes highly acidic and fatal. If this type of gas exposure occurred in an industrial setting, coworkers may be able to get you out of the perilous situation. Oxygen can be supplied and emergency medical assistance can begin immediately. But when trapped in a tunnel of water, The entire tank of air that was sinking with him proved ineffective. He slipped into the sea and perished in a matter of minutes or seconds. At that time, there was nothing anyone could do. After Paul left, his brother would have been pulling his line with no response. This type of tragedy serves as an urgent warning that even the most well-trained and physically strong individuals can still perish in an instant. When his co-workers at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Tucson, Arizona learned of the accident, they were taken aback. Hayden, a full-time pararescue instructor known for his caution and reserve, joined the Air Force's equivalent of the Navy SEALs in 1986. Paul was not a thrill-seeker, stated Colonel Kent Clark, his commanding officer. He was extremely careful. He was always very conscientious about inspecting his equipment and took care of the people with him. I just can't figure out what went wrong. Goss Canyon is a local secret, unknown to many outsiders but providing a gorgeous haven for those who can find it. Yet it's just as deadly of a place. A well buried within the canyon's sheer granite walls was opened in 1915 and has long since been abandoned. Hayden and his 6 siblings grew up in La Crescenta and transformed the well into a summer hangout, swimming and diving in the pools and exploring the various tunnels and caves that reach hundreds of feet underground, according to Hayden's mother. So how can someone who knows the well as good as the back of his hand get stuck and die in there like a novice diver who's never done such expeditions? According to Scott Carrier of the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office, Hayden, whose head was above the water's surface, drowned from a lack of oxygen. Carrier couldn't say whether Hayden had asphyxiated from breathing carbon dioxide-laced air, but he did know Hayden's diving tank was still full. So there's a possibility of him dying apart from asphyxia or loss of oxygen. What could be all of these possibilities? And an even more horrifying question, are all of these causes of death just accidental? Or is there more here that we're too afraid to even think about? Hayden's family members described him as an explorer who once fought an octopus in the Atlantic Ocean, who enjoyed extreme activities such as ice climbing and hang gliding, and who was always ready for a new challenge, another impossible test. Paul was energy, his sister Christine said. According to Clark, the commanding officer, Hayden, who was visiting his family in La Crescentia, was one of the most accomplished pararescue jumpers in the country. He had pushed himself through intense physical training, sets of 100 push-ups, 4,000 meters of swimming, and 6 miles in under 40 minutes. For his extended military service, he also received 17 medals. The guy was a complete stud, said Chief Pararescueman Victor Villaseñor, one of Hayden's training comrades. He was strong and in excellent shape. He was kind. He was witty. He was the type of guy who belonged in the movies. So how does a man like that end up giving his life stuck in a cave? And is it really all natural causes? Or can we believe that there's more to the story, since there are things that we cannot yet see nor understand? Curiosity knows no bounds, and we can certainly assume that there could be a possibility Paul was not completely alone in that cave. The rest can be left up to the imagination. The cave is located within the Angeles National Forest, which would appear to make it illegal to enter without a special use permit. Private mining interests dug the well, although it's been unused for many years. Iron gates near the top of the well prevent access to the well. Authorities claim that there are warning signs near the entry as well. Unfortunately, some people continue to neglect or are uninformed of the dangers associated with cave diving, frequently with catastrophic results. The Goss Canyon accident serves as a reminder of the dangers innate to cave diving and the necessity of proper training, preparation, and attention when you're going for a cave-related activity. Don't ever forget to use safety, and definitely don't wander into a cave that is old enough to be a habitat of beings who are not so human. After a childhood spent exploring this cave with family, after untold numbers of adventures and experiences, how could someone so highly trained die of such a death? And why didn't he use a lighter to test the air in this pocket as he had done so many other times in the past? Was there something in this shaft that the cameras didn't see? What could cause such a well-trained trooper to remove his regulator? Perhaps he saw something that shook him to his core. Or was it, perhaps, a momentary lapse in judgment that cost him his life? What do you think is possible? Should we assume it was nothing but an accident? Or is there more to this story? Tell us what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so we can keep bringing you more brain-racking mystery stories, and click on that bell icon so you never miss out on any of our upcoming videos. Until next time everybody, take care, stay safe, and never remove that regulator.